Section 3. In the beginning of this section, we are told, donate from what God has provided for us. That is to say that all our provisions and our wealth that we have is from God. In this section, we come to the famous and powerful verse, the verse of the throne, in which God tells us some of the descriptions of His attributes in order that we may get to know who God is. We are also told in this section, let there be no compulsion in religion, as the truth clearly stands out from the falsehood. Then there is no need for us to compel anyone to believe, but we must convey the message, and only God can guide one to the truth. We are informed also about some of the interesting moments in the life of Abraham, peace be upon him. God tells us, using a beautiful example, what investment of your wealth will bring you the highest returns. We also come to some verses informing us about giving charity the right way. We then reach verses regarding financial transactions, debts and loans. And it is here we come to the famous verses that are used in the world of finance in regards to the prohibition of interest or usury and the permissibility of trade. And we also find the longest verse in the Qur'an around the contract of loans. After covering 2.5 sections, we come to the end of the longest chapter in the Qur'an, which ends with some beautiful reminders and supplications. On to the next chapter, we start with a reminder of the previous revelations, the Torah and the Gospel. God informs us that He is the one who shapes you in the wombs of your mothers. We then come to an important verse where God tells us that He has revealed the book, this book, the Qur'an, in which there are some verses that are clear and precise, which make up the majority of the book, and there are some verses that are unclear and open to interpretation, and that the deviant people follow the unclear verses to their own corrupt interpretations and by it misleading others. God mentions some of the desires and pleasures of this worldly life and then informs us of something that is better than all of this. We also come to know that regardless of what you reveal or conceal within your hearts, God knows everything. God then mentions the family of Imran, whose wife gives birth to the one who is considered the best of women among all of humanity, Mary. And God says that He chose Mary above all women in the world. We also learn about Zechariah, peace be upon him, whose wife gives birth to John the Baptist, who is essentially a cousin of Mary. Then we come to know about the Messiah, Jesus, son of Mary. We learn about the Immaculate Conception and the miracles given to Jesus, peace be upon him, and that the disbelievers planned against him, but that God also planned, and God is the best of planners. And in the sight of God, Jesus, the example of Jesus, is like that of Adam, peace be upon him, both of whom God created by saying, be, and they were. And very profoundly, God mentions here that Jesus said to His people, Allah is your Lord and my Lord, so worship Him alone. That is the straight path. God also brings to our attention that there are twisted people who distort the book, misleading others and attributing lies to God knowingly. God also mentions some of the prophets by name: Abraham, Ishmael, Isaac, Jacob and his descendants, Moses and Jesus, and that there is no distinction between any of the prophets or the messages that they preached, which is God is one. We end this section with some verses about belief and disbelief and the consequences of each. And that brings us to the end of section 3.